Hello there, and welcome to another video of fractional calculus. So in the previous videos, we have derived several representations for the fractional derivative, and we're even able to prove the extension of the general power rule, namely the alpha integral of x to the nu power is equal to gamma of nu plus 1 divided by gamma of nu plus 1 minus alpha times x to the nu plus alpha. And this was under the assumption that we choose base points, 0 and x. So in this video, we're going to be looking at, in particular, the fractional integral of sine and also cosine, but we're going to be going at it at a bit more careful of an approach and not just calculating a formula, but actually trying to understand exactly what we're calculating and how some of these things might not be as intuitive as they appear on the surface. Alright, so what we're going to be trying to find is the Riemann-Liouville fractional integral of order alpha with base points a of x of the function sine of x. Now, we're not going to be determining a quite yet. Later we're going to sort of determine what kind of base point we have for this, because as you remember, for the exponential function we chose base point negative infinity, but for the polynomials we chose 0 because they give us formulas that sort of relate to what they were in the integer order derivative and integral case. So we're going to try and figure out what this a should be to sort of match up with what we think it should be. Alright, so let's start off with the Riemann-Liouville fractional integral of sine. So that's going to be equal to 1 divided by gamma alpha times the integral from a to x of x minus t to the alpha minus 1 times our function evaluated at t dt. Alright, so how are we going to approach this integral? So one intuitive approach is we can actually use the Taylor series representation of sine in terms of t. So if we do that, this is going to be equal to 1 divided by gamma alpha times the integral from a to x of x minus t to the alpha minus 1 times the Taylor series of sine centered around 0, so that's going to be the sum from k is equal to 0 to infinity of t to the 2k plus 1 divided by 2k plus 1 factorial multiplied by negative 1 to the power of k dt. Now one can show that this integral satisfies some properties in order for us to factor out the summation outside. So once we do that, and we can also factor out this negative 1 to the k, since it doesn't depend on the differential t, so this is going to give us the expression, the sum, from k is equal to 0 to infinity of negative 1 to the power of k divided by 2k plus 1 factorial, and we're going to bracketize this, multiplied by 1 over gamma alpha times the integral from a to x of x minus t to the alpha minus 1 times t to the 2k plus 1 dt. Alright, so what have we built here? So notice that this is pretty much like a Riemann-Liouville fractional integral of t to some power, right? So we already know how to take the Riemann-Liouville fractional integral of things like this. So this is actually the Riemann-Liouville fractional integral of x to the 2k plus 1, right? So what we're going to do is we're just going to replace this with nu in our definition. So remember that this was equal to gamma nu plus 1 divided by gamma nu plus 1 plus alpha times x to the nu plus alpha. So we're replacing 2k plus 1 with nu, so this is just going to be equal to gamma of 2k plus 2 divided by gamma of 2k plus 2 plus alpha times x to the 2k plus 1 plus alpha, right? So this expression is equal to that. So let's just replace that in this expression. So let's bring this sum down. So this is going to be equal to the sum from k is equal to 0 to infinity of negative 1 to the power of k all over 2k plus 1 factorial multiplied by gamma of 2k plus 2 all over gamma 2k plus 2 plus alpha times x to the 2k plus 1 plus alpha. Right. So here is our sum. So remember that gamma and factorial are only 1 apart in terms of integers. And since k is an integer, 2k plus 1 and 2k plus 2 are also integers as well. So these two expressions are actually the same, so that will just cancel out. So this expression, so therefore, the fractional integral of sine of x, and we'll talk about this base point in a minute, is just equal to the sum from k is equal to 0 to infinity of negative 1 to the power of k all over gamma 2k plus 2 plus alpha times x to the 2k plus 1 plus alpha. Right? So what is this base point that we're choosing here? So remember that this is true only if we choose a base point a is equal to 0. So since we're choosing this base point a is equal to 0 in this formulation, because that makes sense to the polynomial fractional derivative and or integral, so that means this is also going to be a base point of 0, right? So we need to figure out, okay, is this going to produce the right results that we want? All right, so let's test this on a few values of alpha to sort of see if it actually gives us what we want. So example, let's do the Riemann-Liouville fractional integral with base point 0x of order -1 of sine of x. So this is the Riemann-Liouville fractional integral of order alpha -1, which is almost like a derivative, right? So this is going to be equal to the sum from k is equal to 0 to infinity of -1 to the power of k all over. So we're going to replace alpha with -1 here. So this is going to be equal to gamma of 2k plus, so alpha is -1, so 2 minus 1 is going to be 1. And then we're going to have x to the power of 2k plus, so alpha is -1, so the 1 and 1 cancel, right? So remember, k is an integer, so 2k plus 1 is also an integer, so we can actually represent this as a factorial expression. So this is going to be the sum from k is equal to 0 to infinity of -1 to the power of k all over 2k factorial times x to the 2k. So as we know, this is the Taylor series for the function cosine of x. So via this representation, we have proven that the Riemann-Liouville fractional integral of sine is equal to cosine. So that at least checks out, right? So let's work in the opposite direction. So now we're going to consider the Riemann-Liouville fractional integral of order +1 of sine. So this should answer the question, the derivative of what is equal to sine, or the first integral of sine, right? So this is going to be equal to the sum from k is equal to 0 to infinity of -1 to the power of k all over gamma, so now we're going to add 1, so this is going to be 2k plus 3 times x to the 2k plus 2. So gamma 2k plus 3 is the same as just what in terms of factorials? So this is going to be the sum from k is equal to 0 to infinity of -1 to the power of k, and you should try and guess what this answer should come out to. So what do we actually want this answer to be? So it's going to be 2k plus 2 factorial times x to the 2k plus 2. Alright, so let's take a look at this sum. So let's plug in a couple values of k and sort of see what this thing is. So when we replace k with 0, we're going to have x squared over 2 factorial minus, so when k is equal to 1, we have 2 plus 2, which is 4 factorial. Then we have plus x to the 6th over 6 factorial minus plus, and so on. So this is almost like cosine, except we're missing the leading 1 term, right? So we can add 1, subtract 1, so sort of balance this out. So we have 1 minus, so we're also going to factor out a negative sign here. So we're going to have x squared over 2 factorial plus x to the 4 over 4 factorial minus x to the 6 over 6 factorial plus minus and so on. Right? So we factor out a negative, added 1, subtract 1. So we know this is just the Taylor series for cosine. So this is going to be equal to 1 minus cosine x, or negative cosine of x plus 1. So this is the Riemann-Liouville fractional integral with base point 0x of the function sine of x, where alpha is equal to 1. So the integral of sine is equal to negative cosine plus 1. Now, is this weird? Well, we know that the integral of sine in terms of indefinite integrals, so we know the antiderivative of sine of x dx is just going to be equal to negative cosine of x plus some arbitrary constant c. So of course, 1 is an arbitrary constant, so this isn't too weird in terms of what we have. But this 1 actually seems to be a natural part of what the antiderivative of sine should be. So if we think about this from the geometric point of view of what the integral of sine means from 0 to x, so if we take a look at that from the graphical perspective, so let's draw sine briefly. So this is sine. So we know that the integral of this function, sine of x, y, so the area under this curve, under this little bell, we know that this is equal to 2, right? So what do we know? So we know, at least from basic trigonometry, that the area under the curve from 0 to x, when x is equal to pi, for example, should be equal to 2. So if we plug that into our answer, that's just going to be negative cosine of pi plus 1. And we know that cosine of pi is negative 1, so that actually this does come out to 2. So it definitely does make sense and seems appropriate of why that number 1 is actually there. And also, if we evaluate this at, say, another point, so the fractional integral from 0 to x of order 1 of sine, evaluated, I don't know, what if we don't actually choose this base point of 0? What if we choose something else, right? What do you think that should be? So let's assume we choose a base point of pi over 2. Like, what does this Riemann-Liouville fractional integral actually mean? So if we think of this in terms of the geometric representation, so if we choose a base point of pi over 2, so now our integral is going to start here. Let's assume we want to evaluate this at, say, x is equal to, I don't know, let's say pi, right? So that means this integral should give us this answer here. So based upon the geometric representation, this should be 1, right? But we have not derived a formula for this expression. We already derived the fractional integral with base point of 0. But if we actually look at what the graph of what this actually should be, and you can work out this representation on your own, so fill in some details, you can actually show that this fractional integral with base point pi over 2 is actually equal to negative cosine x, right? And we know the derivative of negative cosine x is sine, and this doesn't have this little plus 1 part added to it. So should we choose pi over 2 as the default base point for the fractional integral of sine, or should we keep it as 0 because that's how we proved it, with the Taylor series because that sort of relies on the polynomial base point? So now we start to sort of see where some of the conflicts and complications with fractional integrals and fractional derivatives actually come up with, because we know that fractional integrals of non-integer order are not local operators. They actually perform on a global scale. Therefore, this base point definitely does matter and definitely completely subjective change what these fractional integrals or fractional derivatives actually should be. So let's sort of summarize some of these things that we've mentioned here, right? So we've already shown that the fractional integral of x to the nu is going to be equal to gamma of nu plus 1 over gamma nu plus 1 plus alpha to the power of x to nu plus alpha. And we already showed that this is true with base point ax only if a is equal to 0. So the question now becomes, is this really the base point that should be chosen to truly encapsulate what the fractional integral or fractional derivative is actually doing, right? Because yes, we do want it to match up on the integer orders, but how do we know that this base point actually captures what we seek to understand in between these integer orders, right? So that's important. So also remember that we showed that the fractional integral of order alpha of the exponential function e to the eta x was equal to e to the eta x over eta to the power of alpha. And we showed that this is true for the base point a is equal to minus infinity, right? So for these values of a, we get these formulas that quote unquote make sense. But just because it makes sense does not necessarily mean it is valid or correct, right? So therefore, this representation, when we say, what is the half derivative of x equal to, and of course we answered this with the power rule, this notation actually is very misleading. Because what exactly does this mean? So we already showed that this is the same with base point a of x, right? We actually proved what this answer was equal to. But what if we choose a different base point? What if we choose like 0.5 or 0.5 divided by 3, right? The answer will be completely different, right? So this notation here, that's why this notation, d over dx k of some function, should only be used for k is in the natural numbers. You should not be using this notation if you are using anything besides natural numbers or 0, right? Because we know that fractional derivatives and fractional integrals determine at least the Grunwald-Letnikov and the Riemann-Liouville fractional derivatives and integrals depend on this base point a, which will vary the answer completely. Because as we've shown from this discussion, I, base point 0 x of 1 of sine of x, was equal to minus cosine of x plus 1, right? And that's not too weird, right? Because it's negative cosine of x plus c. But as we know, if we differentiate sine and cosine over and over again, we still get sine and cosine, just, horizontal shifts of that. But if we apply this formula to this again, right? So what if we take, the first integral of negative cosine of x plus 1, right? So of course this is going to be a periodic function, but now we have this plus 1 thing here, right? And one can show that this is going to be equal to minus sine of x plus x. And this is going to be a really big problem because now this function is not periodic, right? So even though these base points make sense for x to the power of nu to give us our normal power rule, it doesn't actually give us the answers for which we want in terms of sine and cosine, right? Because if we actually do this integral again, base point 0x of 1 of minus sine of x plus x, we're going to get that this is going to be equal to cosine of x plus 1 half x squared, right? So definitely it's going to give us some integrals in terms of what we want for the power rules, but it sort of adds this term that we do not want. So we definitely need to spend a little bit more extra time on discussing base points and how they actually should be applied and chosen for our particular interest for our functions of investigation. So check back up with us in the next episode of Fractional Calculus, where we will answer and discuss some of these questions.